What's up, everybody? It is I, Tevin Chapo. Friends call me Chop, and we are back with another episode of Chop Logic. Yes, where I, Chop, get to the logic of things in my own special Chop way. And listen, man, first of all, thank you so much for all the support. Thank you so much for, watching the show today. Please be sure, if you haven't done it already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure that you like this video. You can wait to the end to like it if you need to, whatever. That's perfectly fine as well. Comment below some of your favorite moments from not only this episode, but go back and watch some of the other ones you didn't watch either. Maybe we've been giving a lot of game, getting a lot of gems, and today is not any different. So today we are talking about podcasting. Yes, you see what we're doing right here, right now? This is a podcast. Yes, again, thank you so much to my podcast community. Thank you so much for just the support that this podcast has gotten. We've gotten so many just amazing feedback and supporters and just so many amazing things happening because of the podcast coming back. So thank you so much for that. But here we are basically here to talk about podcasting 101. So you've been thinking about starting a podcast. I get it. I was there. You wanted to start a podcast. You didn't know how to get started. You didn't know where you wanted to go. You didn't know what you wanted to do. But you knew that this is something that you wanted to do. So this is what we're here to help, at least as much as possible. Now, to be clear, let me say this. I do podcasting as a business. If you don't know, Chop House Media Group, we do podcasting for other people. We produce podcasts for people as well. Anything and everything that you need to facilitate successful podcasts, we are able to facilitate for you, whether it be the production, the post-production, strategy, any marketing schemes, anything of that nature you need assistance with, we will be able to help here at Chop House Media Group. But if you feel like you don't necessarily want to utilize our services, or you may not feel comfortable utilizing the services on the first go round, you want to start things off on your own, I completely understand. And this is what this video is for. So some of the main things you want to consider before you do anything in terms of buying equipment, learning any new tactics or things of that nature is, let's start with the fact of, what do you want to do your podcast on? What do you want to do the podcast on, right? Is this a podcast dedicated to something specific in your life, whether it be your marriage, your relationship with God even, or your business per se? What aspect would you want your podcast to be about? That is super crucial. What is something that you can talk about for days on end and make sure that you can continue to talk about throughout multiple episodes? Because it's very easy for me to come on my podcast and talk about a variety of things, but you want to make sure that you're sticking to one particular thing when you're starting a podcast, right? So for me, I can talk about film. I could talk about, movie reviews. I could do TV show reviews on this show. Also, if you haven't, subscribe to my second YouTube channel, Tevin Chapo, where we actually do TV and movie reviews on that channel as well. So you don't have to, worry about clogging it up with the podcast. But point being, I can make podcasts about all these speaking points in my life. Music, my first initial podcast was about music. So I don't personally do music professionally. Don't insert the clips of me rapping when I said that. But yeah, I don't do it professionally as much as I do it for a hobby. But my first initial podcast was doing music reviews and speaking on music and things of that nature. So that is a topic of mine that I could speak on. But at the same time, when I decided to pivot into doing this podcast, Chop Logic, my main concern was what is conducive of my brand and what it is that I do long term. I do videography long term. I do podcasting. I've done photography as well. I've done many different things in the filmmaking space. So I can speak on these experiences a lot more, and they're a lot more closer to how I market myself and my business especially. So the next question is, do you have a business? So yes, you have some things that you are able to talk about, but are you able to monetize these things strictly through your business? Are you able to generate leads because of what you're talking about? Some people may find the conversations interesting about your marriage, but do you have some type of crash course on marriage that people can buy, invest in? Some type of one-on-one coaching that you do with other married couples, like counseling, things of that nature? Or is it just because you feel like your marriage is successful that you can create a podcast with your wife? Not to say there's anything wrong with that. Not to say there's anything wrong with that at all. But what I'm saying is that if you really have the goals of growing your podcast to a point of being able to monetize it. These are the things that you want to consider. So that's going to be actually my next thing to speak on. What is it that you have in terms of goals for your podcast? Because some people just have the goal of just having a podcast, having a platform where you can speak freely about whatever it is you want to talk about. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. I actually would encourage people to start podcasts just for the sake of having a platform to speak your opinions on. Even if it doesn't get any views, any listens at all, still having a safe space where you feel comfortable expressing yourself however you see fit is amazing. But at the same time, again, what are your goals? Is your goal to not only just have a safe space, but also create that safe space for others? Is the goal to, again, create business from this safe space? Is the goal to create a business out of this safe space? So depending on your goals, depends on what it is you should be speaking on. And also it should be depending on how many things you can talk about within the specific field that you're speaking on too. Because again, if you can't speak on marriage for 200 episodes and the various different aspects of it, then why start a marriage podcast? Or, I'm not, again, I feel like I'm poo-pooing on people with marriage podcasts, which is not the case. If you have a relationship podcast, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, the podcasting space is very diverse. You can talk about anything. So another example would be, let's me doing music again, right? Like, let's say, if I'm not an artist, if I'm not a rapper, if I'm not a producer, a DJ, or anything of that nature, if my goal is to just speak about music as a fan, that's different. Then at that point, it's more of a hobby. If it grows to be something that I can do professionally or do progressively, maybe even step into journalism to some degree or another, that would be one thing, right? But if this is something like, hey, I have a business in videography, but my podcast is all about me talking music, that don't make sense. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't really conduce with the brand that I've already built. So it's like, am I trying to pivot my brand strictly into doing music or even doing content for people in the music industry? Maybe that would be something different as well. But again, like, what are your set goals in the podcasting space? Because that is what's going to dictate how you should be moving within the space. If you're doing stuff for the sake of just doing it, if you just want to monetize strictly the podcast itself, the easiest way and the fastest way to do it is to have some type of product or service or business that you can promote through the podcast. To be honest, this whole episode is one big old marketing scheme for your boy at Chop House Media Group, where we do shooting, editing, anything that you need a done for you podcast 100%. So we take a lot of that leeway and we help you build your podcast from scratch 100%. Without you feeling like you need to be overwhelmed with figuring out what you should say, how you should say it, what you should buy, what type of guests you should have on your show, how you need to learn how to shoot and edit, all the things, right? We handle it for you 100%. But again, this episode is for people who may want to figure it out on their own, which is perfectly fine. So the next things, once you figured out your goals in podcasting, what it is you want to speak on, the area of expertise you want to use within podcasting, and then just being able to commit to doing it, because that's a whole nother thing. Committing to podcasting is an investment in its own right. It's an investment in your time. It's an investment in your resources, investment in your money. So this is something that realistically, even in terms of monetization, it doesn't happen overnight. Not for everybody. It can't happen for certain people depending on what type of cachet you may have or leeway your name may have, or what kind of brand partnerships you may already have brokered in other parts of your life. Like if you were a celebrity, like LeBron James, I'm pretty sure he got paid to do his podcast off the rip before an episode even came out. You know what I mean? If I was LeBron, I would make sure I'm getting some money before I do anything. You know what I mean? So if you're not like of that caliber, and LeBron is a super high example, but you don't even have to be at a LeBron level to make money in podcasting before you get started. But if you're not at that or at any level of cachet within, any type of specific field, to the point where you will have endorsement deals, sponsorship deals coming to you to start the podcast. Like if you're just like a regular average person at the ground level like myself, then of course it makes sense for you to pivot your podcast specific to how you can monetize it in the best ways possible. So the best ways possible to have a good service that you can promote, and having a podcast that's dedicated to whatever your goods and services are. So if I was in real estate, I'd have a real estate podcast. If I was in, again, the music industry, I'd have a music-based podcast. If I was in the sex-based industry, I'd have a podcast about sex, whatever the case may be. So it really just depends on what it is. If I was in the video game industry, it could be anything, right? So it's just a matter of, again, pinpointing those things. And once you have those things figured out, just knowing that you have to be consistent in it long enough to see it through to the end, basically. Like, you need to make sure that you're seeing it through to guarantee that you're even able to get monetized. The average podcast doesn't get monetized in the first year. So do you have the time and effort and resources to do a podcast for the next year of your life, knowing that you wouldn't get money off of it? Do you have that level of dedication? These are things you got to really ask yourself, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it at all. If you feel like you don't, it's not as easy as it seems. A lot of people want to say that a lot of people are jumping into podcasting, but realistically, it's still an open market for a lot of people to come into it. There's plenty of space and the airwaves for people to listen to what you have to say. But again, you still have to put in the work, and you still have to be consistent enough for it to manifest into whatever goals you have for it. So these are the things you have to consider, right? And once you have all those things considered, essentially what you want to do, break it down. You want to make sure that you have the right equipment to get everything done. First of all, audio is crucial. You see, I got me a mic right here. You know what I mean? I'm not sponsored by Shure. You know what I mean? I'm not sponsored by Shure at all. They just have quality mics, So those are good mics. Rode makes good mics as well. You can buy a mic from anywhere. You can get a mic from Temu, as long as it sounds good. As long as it sounds good, I'm not going to talk crazy about Temu. All right. I done bought some stuff on Temu, not any actual equipment. Let me make sure I say that. I ain't buying no equipment off Temu, but like some household stuff that, Temu is nice. You can get a decent deal for it, but you don't have to go for the crazy expensive things just because you see other people with it. That would be cool to have, but if it's not within your budget, I wouldn't necessarily do it, especially if it's not within your budget to, hire me to do it. So there's that. So I would definitely make sure to just have some type of good audio equipment first and foremost, something that's loud, crispy. You can get a good audio recorded on both ends, from the microphone end and from the receiver end, whether that be some type of interface like a Rodecaster or a Zoom recorder, or if you were even like using lapel mics, like if you lapelled yourself and you talk for 30, 40 minutes, that's perfectly fine too. That would definitely work out in terms of, just being able to do it easily. And you can just hook it up to a camera or some lapels you can record internally and things of that nature as well. But that will lead into my next thing. You also want a video to supplement with it too, right? So you want to make sure that you have options in terms of where the podcast is going. The podcast is going to live not only in the audio space, but also in the video spaces as well. So not only on YouTube, where you're watching the full episode, I hope you're watching the full episode, or you could be watching the clips on social media as well. And the social media clips is how you market the podcast to bring people in so that they can watch it and maybe, get some game or, just be able to be consistent viewers / listeners, things of that nature, right? So these are all things that you want to make sure that you're keeping in consideration. Again, cameras, we had a whole episode about equipment in which you shouldn't be buying. Realistically, if you're starting a podcast and you can't afford a camera outright, if you have a good enough iPhone, run it up. I'm going to be real with you. Run it up. And I ain't mad at you. You know what I'm saying? Invest more in your lighting and in your audio before you commit to just outright trying to buy a new camera that costs you thousands of dollars and whatnot, right? You know what I mean? Or if you want to, you know what I'm about to say, be sure to hit us up at chophouse.mediagroup.com and we'll be able to facilitate all the high quality equipment that you don't want to buy yourself. And then you don't have to worry about buying no camera, no audio, nothing. You ain't got to worry about nothing but showing up and be ready to speak. But, it really all, just like I said, it depends on where you at in your journey and how comfortable you are with having somebody else do it, outsourcing things, and how comfortable you are with even being in the podcasting space initially to begin with, right? So these are all the things that you want to make sure that you're considering. There's so many more to it as well in terms of what type of editing softwares you can be using. So editing is a whole nother ball game. Ideally, when you're just starting out, you want to shoot things as best as possible so that editing isn't terrible. Just having a good audio recorder, making sure you're tracking what the audio sounds like while you're recording some type of way, whether it's you're using headphones or if you have a producer like myself, shout out my producer, Javane, who can help you behind the scenes with recording and things of that nature. Or like I said, hiring Chop House Media Group to be those producers for you as well, just to make sure that you're running clean audio. If you don't particularly feel comfortable editing, if the audio and the visuals are clean enough, then it should be relatively minimal editing in the beginning, especially if it's just you by yourself, like how I'm doing right now. Now, once you get guests and you need different camera angles, you need multiple microphones and things of that nature, that's when things start to get more grandiose in the scope of things. But if you're just starting out, you just want to do like a solo podcast, things of that nature, or if you just have maybe you, and like I said, if it's a relationship podcast, you and your wife, you probably only going to need like at minimum 2 camera angles. More than that would be great, but just to start out, so your phone, your wife's phone, some type of audio recording situation. So even if it was like a lapel mic, you can get the lapel mics that hook up to iPhones and you can just record it straight into the video. You can run it through CapCut, or some super easy software that can really get you through the editing process pretty smoothly. Probably do minimal edits. Doing it in a quiet place would help a lot, because then at that point the editing would not be super strenuous. I wouldn't even worry about doing color grades or all the stuff that we do at Chop House Media Group. I would say if you're just starting out, you're doing this by yourself, you wouldn't even worry about doing this on your own. But just things to get started, right? The biggest hindrances is really just the getting started aspect of things. A lot of people don't get started because they feel so many different things about podcasting, right? It could be you feel like podcasting is oversaturated, which is not true. You can feel like you're overwhelmed by just the sheer amount of things and resources you would need to start a podcast, which, again, people like us at Chop House Media Group, we make it easier for you. Or you could just feel like you don't have anything specific that you want to talk about, or you could even feel like people don't care to hear your opinions, which is also not true. These are all limiting beliefs that are going to hold you back in any and all aspects of just life in general. Don't limit yourself and what you want for yourself, all right? Be prepared to go out there, but also be prepared to put in the work for it too. Even if you were to hire us to do your podcast, at the end of the day, you still have to show up. I can't sit in and do your podcast for you and use your speaking points and talk about those things from your aspect and from your opinions and from your perspective. Only you can do that. And podcast is probably one of the best spaces to do that in. So it's definitely a way to get into it. You just, again, got to put in the work and you got to stay consistent. And that's with anything. Don't be afraid to be consistent. A lot of podcasts end after 10 episodes. And if like my producer Javane knows, this podcast took a mean hiatus after the first 10 episodes. So we dropped 2 episodes and it took about 2 years for us to come back. But we back. And we better than ever, We got different locations. I can't even tell you where we at right now, but we ain't, I was shooting that in my living room, So we ain't in, well, this is a living room, but you get what I'm saying though, right? This isn't my living room per se. We leveled up everything so much more. And again, it took the time, but imagine if we hadn't came back. Imagine if we stopped at the 10 episodes, we would have been just like everybody else. And you don't want to be like everybody else. Nobody wants to start a podcast to give it up. Why would you want to give up on something? You know what I mean? Like, even when my podcast was on hiatus, I didn't put it on hiatus from a place of it's never going to come back. I always knew it was going to come back. I just didn't know when or how, because of just my schedule at the time. And even my schedule now is still pretty hectic. But I always knew in the back of my mind, this podcast is going to exist. And honestly, I don't do this podcast specifically to garner too much of anything. You know what I mean? Like the feedback, the reception that I've gotten for this podcast, I'm super grateful for, because at the end of the day, I didn't think anybody would care. I did this podcast thinking that not one person was going to watch the video, not one person was going to listen to what I had to say, that I would not care to keep doing it, but I would do it anyway. You know what I mean? So it was just a mindset of like, no matter what comes out of this, I'm still going to keep going, because this is what I want to do. I'm here because I want to be here. I'm not here because nobody's making me do it. It's so much easier to not do this podcast. All right. I could be in bed right now. I could be editing something else. I could be working on my other client stuff right now. But for the sake of not only just my business, but for myself and what I want to do for myself, I'm here right now doing this show. So these are the things that keep me going. And again, it don't matter how many people is watching it, not watching it, liking the videos, not liking the videos, they still gonna come out regardless. If I get one view and it was just me clicking on it by accident, it still came out and I will still be happy. I'm proud of what we've been able to do here at Chop Logic. I'm proud of the fact that we were able to come back. I'm super grateful for people like Javane being able to support us and just being able to continue to grow as much as possible in the field is what I'm excited for. So, we still in the early stages. We've dropped a bunch of episodes this season, you know what I mean? And we still in the early stages. So it's an amazing feeling. And it's something that I don't take for granted. And again, jumping into the podcasting space, something I would say you shouldn't take for granted either. All right. So you want to make sure, to recap, make sure that you know your goals for podcasting. Make sure you have something that you can speak on for extended periods of time, whether it be long episodes, whether it be amount of episodes, whatever the case may be. You want to make sure you have as many topics and things that you know in the specific field of what you want to say. You want to make sure you get good equipment going, or you want to make sure that you delegate to the right team to make sure that you get your podcast out right. So, whatever it is that you need to do, you make sure you make it happen. You want to make sure that you do whatever it takes to make sure that the podcast comes out and make sure that you're consistent in the space. Anything that you start, you want to make sure that you see it through. So if you're not here to see it through, that's perfectly fine. What I will tell you also is this, two things. For one, depending on what type of podcast it is, whether it's solo podcast or something you do with another person or group of people, what have you, be mindful of the time each episode should be. So for instance, this podcast, when I'm sitting here by myself, it could be like maybe 30 minutes and that's perfectly fine. It's just me. You know what I mean? When we have like a podcast and it's like 4 or 5 people and it's only 30 minutes long, not everybody gonna be talking. You know what I mean? Like that's not enough time for everyone to have a real contribution if it's 5 people. So that's just something you want to also consider when you're even building out a podcasting team with maybe even co-hosts and things of that nature. You want to make sure that you know, like, okay, what's a good amount of time for us all to get good quality speaking points in on this podcast. And then also in terms of building your team on the front end with the host, making sure you're building out a good team on the back end. Because yeah, it can be both. Like let's say it was you and your wife and y'all delegate who does what. Like, okay, I'm gonna make sure I do the shooting and editing. She gonna make sure to put it out, post it, do all the other fun stuff, the branding, whatever the case may be, right? It's all about delegation one way or another. I would say if you do it at a high level where you need full production, like what we do here at Chop Logic and what we also do here at Chop House Media Group, then I suggest having some type of producer who can do everything behind the scenes to make it a lot easier for you to maneuver. So again, knowing what you want to say, knowing the goals of the podcast, it'll be great if you want to monetize it to have some type of business in place. You also want to have solid enough equipment, at least for getting started, a camera, some type of microphone, audio recording setup. And then also you want to find some simplistic ways to edit. So that also means making it super easy for shooting. So like I said, just connecting the audio to the video and then you can drop it all at once. Sitting in a super quiet place. This room I'm in is never really that quiet for real, but we just have amazing editors on our side of things. So, like myself, and we make sure to make the crazy sounds go away, right? You want to make sure it gets quiet as possible wherever you're recording. So it's a lot easier to mix and master audio and things of that nature. You want to make sure, again, this is all just starting out. So you want to make sure you're able to stay consistent and whatever that looks like in terms of you staying consistent, whether you being able to handle things on your own or delegate it. You want to just find levels of consistency on either side of that. But either way it goes, the consistency is the main thing you should be focused on. If this is something you really want to do, you got to really be able to do it, whether the money come in tomorrow or not, whether your goal is even make money off of it or not. just having a safe space and creating that podcast that you're proud of is the main goal. And whatever comes with it, it's going to come with it regardless. So these are some super light, just things to consider when you're doing a podcast. You know, I didn't want to give too much game because, again, I do this as a business. So if you want to know more details about how we at Chop House Media Group can boost your podcast to the next level, or even if you're just getting started and you need help with ideas, conceptualizing the production side of things, the post-production side of things, Chop House Media Group is also here to help. So we're going to go on break because I think we have an ad that will speak so much more to what I just said. And then when we come back, it'll be time for some trivia. See you soon. This video is sponsored by Chop House Media Group. Now listen, podcasting is hard, all right? There's a lot of moving parts to a successful podcast, whether it be the shooting side, the post-production side, the audio mixing and mastering. Just having the right strategy and know how to even get this podcast in the right places and getting it into the right positions to get monetized. And that is where Chop House Media Group helps out at. We have coined the phrase, the podcast in the box, where we pretty much facilitate anything and everything that you need to run a successful podcast, between the production, the post-production, the strategy, and the tips and tricks that you need to be 1,000% successful in every single aspect of your podcasting career. Now, if you are interested in being a part of this and making sure that you get your podcast to the next level, whether you are just now starting out your podcast or you are already in the podcasting field but want to take it to another level, be sure to hit the link below and schedule your free consultation with us to make sure that we get your podcast up and going further than you can ever imagine. All right, again, thank you to Chop House Media Group for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the show. And we back. All right, so I know I said a lot of things about podcasting. Today we've been doing things a little bit differently. I usually have my laptop with me. You know, I do podcasting so much I can just do it off the top of my head. But we are still going to do the trivia. So got my producer Javane right here. Say what's up, Javane. He's going to give me some trivia questions. If I get a majority of the questions right, I get to go home and ride off into the sunset. If I get them wrong, I got to give a cash prize to one of you watching this podcast here today. So the only way you can win a cash prize is if, for one, you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. For two, you got to make sure you like this video. And for three, you got to comment below your favorite moment from this episode. So just your favorite piece of information that I may have given out or just anything that I spoke on. You just want to make sure you put it down below. And again, a lot of the stuff that we talked about today is all introductory levels. So I can dive so much deeper into this information. There's so many more things you can buy. We didn't even talk about like live streaming. We didn't talk about switching. We didn't go in depth about any type of editing. You know what I mean? So there's so many more expertise that we had that we didn't express in this particular episode. I want to make sure I clarify that. But these are just like general basics that should get you started. So Javane, let me know what you got, brother.
All right. You ready for this, my boy?
Yes, sir.
All right. So podcasting, and brought to you by our want-to-be sponsors. We would love for them to be a sponsor at ChatGPT and Liner.
Yes. Also, before we get started, ChatGPT will also help you a lot with podcasting too. If you want to get started, ChatGPT will help you with anything that you don't know what to do. You just type it in there, and they'll figure it out for you too.
Yeah, but they'll at least tell you where to look.
Or at least give you an idea.
Yeah. So yeah, we got 3 questions for you. You know, regular stuff, multiple choice, and just let me know when you're ready to get into it.
I'm ready.
All right, cool. So question number 1 is, what is a call to action in podcasting? Is it A, a dramatic moment in a story, B, an audio technique to boost volume, C, when the host asks the audience to subscribe, review, or visit a link, or D, the signal to end an episode?
That's C, final answer.
C, final answer, when the host asks the audience to subscribe, review, or visit a link, is correct. And so with that, go ahead and hit the subscribe button.
Subscribe. Make sure. Come on. We done said it about 1 million times. This one episode.
Like, come on now.
If you have any questions about podcasting, go to our website, Chop House Media Group. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Chop House Media Group, where you can watch these episodes, you know, and get more game on some of the previous episodes. Mm-hmm. Everything where I tell you to do something is a call to action.
Yes.
So like, this is if you need to know. And even if it's not in a podcast setting, if you're doing any type of marketing content, of any sort, you want to have some type of call to action where people will know what to do after they saw what they saw or heard what they heard.
Right. All right, so let's get into the second question, which is, what does evergreen content mean in podcasting? Is it A, a holiday themed episode, B, topics that are always trending, C, episodes that stay relevant over time, or D, episodes that only drop in December? Again, what does evergreen content mean in podcasting?
Evergreen content?
Yeah, and think about the word evergreen. 'Cause
Evergreen?
and think about it in the nature aspect.
You got me, bro. I don't know shit about that. I don't know nothing about that. Evergreen.
You want the choices again?
Yeah, give me the. Yeah,
All right, so A, holiday themed episodes.
No.
B, topics that are always trending. C, episodes that stay relevant over time. Or D,
So maybe.
episodes that only drop in December.
So wait, what's the real difference between B and C?
I guess being trendy and being relevant are the deciding factor here. Like, trending don't always mean is a good thing, but being relevant, I guess, kind of means.
Boy, we splitting hairs like crazy on that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So flip a coin, my boy.
Give me B and C again.
B, topics that are always trending. C, episodes that stay relevant over time.
I'm gonna go C, but I'm still confused on the difference between those two. So
the answer is actually C.
wow.
So you correct.
All right, damn. What the
So the way I looked at it was like evergreen trees. Like, even when the seasons change, they always gonna be green.
You did say something. Yeah, see, brother, I wasn't even thinking like that. So
Yeah,
you got me.
I thought that was an interesting question too. But yeah,
All right,
that's,
well, we got
you
it.
learned something today,
Yeah, for real. That's a term I ain't never used. Never had to use.
right?
Really good
But
to know.
somebody used it
So,
somewhere.
I mean, more or less, what we do is evergreen because
Yeah,
we don't
pretty much.
Yeah, because we don't talk about anything
That's
super
not
relative.
relevant. Yeah. All right, cool. I mean, sorry to y'all. Y'all not winning no money today, but we just
Yeah,
gonna
so
give
sorry.
y'all the
We'll-
third
we'll
question
keep rocking
anyways.
though, Anyway,
Yeah. Let's knock the third one up. Number 3, what does pod fade refer to in podcasting? Is it A, the gradual decrease in sound quality over time? B, when a podcast host forgets to plug in the mic? C, when a show stops releasing episodes without officially ending? Or D, a special audio transition used in post-production? Pod fade.
It's got to be C. I'm guessing.
When a show stops releasing episodes without officially ending?
Yeah. Yes, final answer.
Ding 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 ding. I was about to say you're wrong, but you're right. You know what I mean? We almost did that back in the day. Almost, but
Almost barely came close. Well, we was not coming close to that because we was gonna come back.
yeah. We temporarily faded, but we
yeah,
back.
it was like a light fade.
Yeah,
It wasn't even like a fade. It was like a fade away, like a jumper. Like
yeah.
we still shot to shot.
right.
You know what I mean?
We made it.
Yeah, we made it. It went in. It was just
Right.
weird, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
but
So,
it
but
took a
yeah.
while to get back, but it's all good.
Okay.
It's all good.
Yeah, pod fade.
Pod fade.
A lot of pods fade. A lot of them do that. That's just a general thing. So
Hey man,
And-
it be like that.
it
Like you
do-
said, after 10 episodes, it's like
it'd be tough, man.
it'd be tough.
It'd be tough, you know. So that's why, you know, we here to get the game out. Like I said, you need more details than what this episode couldn't provide. I get it. Hit us up at shophousemediagroup.com. You know, if this was everything that you needed to be, go ahead and like the video anyway. Subscribe to the channel. We got a plethora of videos on videography and just how you can maneuver in business and just so many different things, so many different topics. And we still got many more to go. So
Right.
this ain't even it. So
Right.
we ain't pod fading no time soon.
That was your call to action, by the way.
Yeah, there you go. Boom. So,
Boom.
yeah, like I said, subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment below favorite moment from this episode, and we're going to go ahead and get up out of here. So, I'm Tevin No Chapo. Friends, call me Chop. Thank you for being here for another episode of Chop Logic, and I'm going to see y'all next time. Peace.